everybody. Greg Martin here for another edition of Adapt Weekly. This is episode 9, and we are continuing our streak of amazing guests today. And today we're sitting down with Elan Lee, chief designer and co-founder of Fourth Wall Studios. Can you hear me okay, my man?
Yeah, absolutely.
Great.
Thanks for having me.
You bet. Thanks for sitting down with me. I appreciate it. So let's dive into it. I wanted to, I usually start every conversation with a little background question. Can you give us an idea of your background and how you came up through the ranks and got to what you're doing today at Fourth Wall Studios?
How I got to this place of basically getting paid not to grow up, huh?
Absolutely.
Let's see. Out of college, I actually worked in computer special effects. I worked over at Industrial Light and Magic and thought for sure I was going to do that whole movies thing because that was just so awesome to me. And then I moved over to Microsoft, where they were just getting started with the Xbox. And I worked my way up at Microsoft to become the lead game designer for the original Xbox, the launch portfolio there. And that was a blast. I mean, holy crap, getting paid to play video games and build games and do some really creative design work. From there, one day, Steven Spielberg walked into my office because Microsoft's a very strange place and things like that happen from time to time. And we started working on The Beast, what is, I guess, known as one of the first alternate reality games out there, although we had no idea what to call it at the time. And once that really kicked off and became a success, I decided that I wanted to build more of those and went to my boss and said, hey, this is the coolest thing since anything, and the future of entertainment and digital storytelling, and this is where it's all headed, and I want to build more of these. And he said, yeah, great, as long as you can put it in a box and put a little $60 price tag on it, we're good. And that wasn't quite going to happen. So I resigned from Microsoft. With some friends, Jordan Weissman, Sean Stewart, Jim Stewartson, we started 42 Entertainment to keep pushing that forward and built so many projects over there. A lot of really big ones that people know about, I Love Bees and Nine Inch Nails and all kinds of... each project was sort of playing around with a different thread of reality. And how can you tell stories that happen in people's lives? How can you make your life part of the digital storytelling experience? And we got really good at that and had so much fun. And then after that, I decided it was probably time to take all that experience, I mean, God, at that point it was like 7, 8 years of experience doing this thing, and take the next step with it. Make it accessible to a larger audience, do more mainstream products instead of very, very niche, I almost want to say sort of geek love fests. I'm very much a geek and love all the games that I've built, but I was never going to hear my mom say, oh my God, I just played your latest game, or I just sat down with your grandmother and we got strange phone calls from 21st century artificial intelligences. So resigned from 42 and started Fourth Wall Studios. Along the way, there was also a clothing company, eDoc Laundry, where we learned how to tell stories through clothing, but that's a whole other story. And Fourth Wall is really designed to build mainstream products. We mostly concentrate on movies, on television shows, and digital properties that are first and foremost accessible for a mass audience. These are the stories that you're used to, and each one has an additional component embedded into it. So how cool is it as you're watching your favorite TV show and a character on the screen picks up a phone to make a phone call, and the next moment the cell phone in your pocket starts ringing, right? So first and foremost, these are big products. These are mass products that everyone knows and loves. But then we experiment around with, all right, how do you put a little bit of that secret sauce on top of it and make them more accessible, more interesting, and a little glimmer as to what the future of entertainment might look like.
Very interesting. So is the clothing company still around?
The clothing company is still around. We are talking with The clothing company is in a little bit of a legal issue right now. We have a bunch of people actually trying to purchase it, and so we are dealing with a lot of lawyers all day, every day.
Fun.
Which is a great. This is not complaining. This is a
Yeah.
great position to be in. The only downside, of course, is we haven't released a new season in a while as we deal with all of those lawyers.
Gotcha, gotcha. What's the name of that? What's the name of the company?
EDOC Laundry.
Elan Laundry.
EDOC. Here's the secret. EDOC is the word code spelled backwards.
Ooh.
The basic the 10-second version of EDOC is coolest clothing line ever, right? Like, this is the stuff that we would all be proud to go out and wear in public. Just kind of a street sort of skater mentality with all the designs, except each one has a secret code or hidden message embedded somewhere in it. So to get the secret code, maybe you have to fold the shirt in a strange way, or you have to get it warm or cold or hot, or get it near another shirt, or whatever it is. We use thermal inks and infrared inks and glow-in-the-dark inks and strange stitching. And if you can find the secret of your shirt, you go to the website, you enter in the secret that you found, and a movie starts playing. And there's one movie per shirt. We made a lot of movies. Each one is a little 2-minute clip, and as you start to piece some of these things together, you start to learn a story. And it's a story about this woman who's on the run from the law, and it's a crime she didn't commit, and only you can save her, and you know how this goes, right? Before you know it, you're knee-deep in this murder mystery story, told exclusively through clothing. And if you want to know what happens next, that's awesome. Great. Go out and buy another shirt. So it's like a TV show. Each series in the line, the winter season, the spring season, is like a series, a new season on a TV show. Each shirt is an individual episode, and it's a new way to distribute story in the real world.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That is very cool. That's actually kind of a nice segue into another storytelling device that just recently hit the marketplace, the iPad and other web-enabled e-readers, as we're kind of looking out. I've asked a few people that I've interviewed that have these tangential relationships with novels and printed publications. I want to ask you the same question. What do you see the iPad's implications for storytelling, and how could it fit in with the storytelling that you guys are used to doing over there at Fourth Wall?
Yeah. Well, I don't want to speak to whether or not I think the iPad will be successful, because that's a very long conversation.
Yeah.
But what is really fascinating about it, and what's very exciting about it, is think about the iPad as X-ray vision goggles. If the goal of digital storytelling and next generation storytelling is to convert you into a superhero, and really that is the core of every project I've ever worked on, is how do I convince you, the player, that you are really a superhero, that you live in a world that isn't quite the world that everyone else lives in, because you're special, because you are better, because you are more powerful. The iPad, because it's web-enabled, because it's so mobile, and because it has such a rich media environment, it allows you to enter that world almost at any moment. It allows you to almost you're riding the bus to work, and it's a boring situation that you've been in every single day for the last 5 years. It allows you to kind of take a little bit of a tear through the fabric of that reality and see what might lie underneath. See, hey, are there any other superheroes on this bus? Hey, is there any story embedded in the seat in front of me? Hey, is there any adventures at this stop? Maybe I'll get off one stop early because there's this story that's waiting to take place a little bit earlier. I think there's something really powerful about the idea of blending that form of narrative, that invitation to be a more special version of yourself anywhere you go, so that you always feel like you can drop into that world for as long as you feel comfortable. Mm-hmm. Consume some really kick-ass story that stars you, and then drop back out and go do your regular thing. So in that regard, I'm very excited about the iPad and other technologies like that. And then there's the whole other question about, are people going to want to lug that thing around or not?
Right.
How do you feel about it?
I don't know. I think from a storytelling standpoint, it's a very it adds just a new layer of that process. I think you could take stories that were just in printed form, and you can really bring them to life in a lot of ways that you weren't able to do just in the printed page. And just talking to J.C. Hutchins a couple weeks ago, You talk about the physical assets that were included with that book. You turn those into digital assets, and those digital assets become videos and other little Easter eggs that are within the story and the framework that you're sitting there with your iPad and you're watching this video or listening to a podcast, or you're kind of thumbing through all of these digital assets right there within the story, and you don't have to go anywhere else or have to go locate anything else. I mean, I think that's a game changer.
Yeah, well, one of the biggest aspects of, as we start to deal with more and more transmedia entertainment, which, I don't know, is just the new sort of flavor of the week for what to call alternate reality games, I think. As we deal with that, we find tools to branch out more and more, right? We find ways to make phone calls, and we find ways to send text messages. I'm talking from the game creator's point of view, right? We send those text messages, we make those phone calls, we supply newspaper clippings, we give you a little origami thing to fold and unfold. And the more of those tentacles that you build off the hub, the head of the octopus, the more of those tentacles you build, the more confusing the experience becomes. And it becomes much easier for any member of the audience to kind of get lost in the weeds and venture off down a tentacle that was really interesting, but not really be able to navigate back, or not really understand how that one path leads or connects to the other paths. Wow, am I mixing a lot of metaphors here? But you get the idea. So what's really interesting about a central machine is it can be the hub. It can be the head of that octopus, so that when you go down a path, it is the thing that's pulling you back and saying, great, you've experienced story on your cell phone. Now come back and we'll explain how that ties in. Hey, great, we just triggered an email and you went and read it. Now come back and we're going to tell you how that ties in as well. In the same way that reading a book has one path. Here's where it starts, here's where it ends. You get to experience everything in between. When it goes off into all those directions, you still need that central storytelling mechanism that's going to pull you back and explain, okay, here's what turning the page feels like,
right?
So that you can have the next chapters start.
I wonder if the answer to that is to start building applications that contain the entire storytelling experience within the frame of the application itself, so that you don't get lost, so that you're not necessarily going from the text-based experience to a web-based experience and going out onto a browser, on your Wi-Fi connection, and then you gotta close a bunch of, close to get back, but you keep it contained within the application.
You have just described the last 2 years of my life as building that.
Yeah, that's it, huh?
I totally agree. Within our company, that's called Rides, and it's a platform that does almost exactly what you're describing. Think about, let's see. Okay, let's talk about your favorite TV show, your favorite movie, your favorite book. It almost doesn't matter. They're all the same thing when it comes down to it. They're all a series of scenes. Scene 1 happens in the house, and scene 2 is down the street, and scene 3 is in the car, and scene 4 is at the park, etc., etc. Right. All storytelling is a series of these scenes tied together in a linear fashion. All right. Now, we talked about transmedia being, holy crap, this very confusing thing with all these different scenes running off in every different location, and that's a really hard thing to contain. But let's talk about it a different way. What if transmedia storytelling was also just a series of scenes, except that each of the scenes was experienced across a different form of media? So scene 1 is on your computer screen, and scene 2 is on your cell phone, because your phone's just started ringing, and scene 3 is through your email, and scene 4 takes you back to the computer, and scene 5 is, I don't know, the fax machine, payphone, whatever it is. If you have a platform that takes all those scenes and literally ties them together so that it shows you, here is what turning the page looks like. Here's how you move from one scene to the next, and here's how we're going to reward you for it, and here's the threads that are going to carry across from one scene to the other. Suddenly, it's not that you need an instruction set, but it's that it feels like an intuitive form of consuming this very new kind of media. In a world where it's very, very easy to get lost in this stuff, what the Rides engine is, what Fourth Wall Studios is working so hard to do, is build an engine to just kind of hold your hand through that process and say, here's what comes next, okay, and here's what comes after that, and here's what, oh, you didn't give us your phone number? No problem. What we're going to do is reconstitute that scene to deliver it across your computer's audio instead. But still, we're going to get you to that next scene. We're going to help you turn the page of that book, because without it, we can't tell a good story.
Wow. That was actually going to be my next question about rides and what that platform was all about. So that we just fell right into that, didn't we?
Awesome. Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, I get very excited about the future of entertainment and the evolution of storytelling. If you think about storytelling and the places that we've started from, you know, there have been these major pivotal moments in storytelling, right? There's the invention of the printing press, and there was the invention of modern theater, and there was the invention of the motion picture camera, and all of these things came with a mechanism by which you experience story. Here's a book. Here's the front of the book. Turn the pages. Here's a theater. Sit in the seat. Look that way. Here's a movie camera, which is, of course, much more complicated, but ultimately it's sit down and watch this box. And our best attempts so far at web-based storytelling, internet-based storytelling, my screensaver just turned on for a second, at transmedia storytelling have been, let's take other forms of storytelling. Let's take big movies, 72mm movies, and shrink them down to the size of a postage stamp and put them on a web page and call it done. And that's not it. That's not even close. But in order to use the internet, in order to use the larger network, your cell phone network, your social network, everywhere you're connected, your new iPad network that's going to come out, you need the rule set. You need the instruction set that's going to make it not scary, but very intuitive. Want the next chapter? Here's what you do in order to get that. So that's the concept behind rides, is trying to take that next step in the evolution of storytelling and say, we've got all these disconnected networks, and we're going to plug them all into the same socket so that you know what comes next.
So you guys, and were you using rides on, let me think of a past example, like Eagle Eye. You guys did that little 10-minute game, right?
Yeah, we've done the stuff that we're allowed to talk about, 3 little short 10-minute experiences. One was for Eagle Eye, one was for Watchmen, and one was for NBC's show Kings. Each one was 10 minutes long, literally start to finish, 10 minutes. And they were all built on the same engine, on the Rides engine. And a good way to think about it is if you've ever done any video editing, you're looking at a timeline, right? And you lay out your shots sequentially, one after the other. What the Rides platform lets us do is lay out our shots across different forms of media. So you pull in the website module onto your timeline, and it starts building a website for you, where you can put any content you want. And then you want your phone to ring, so that's the next scene. You drag in the cell phone module, and it plugs in to the website module, and suddenly it starts prompting you, hey, what phone number do you want it to be? Upload an audio message that the user hears. What happens when they press 1? What happens when they press 2? How do you transition into the next scene? What is the next scene? So drag in another module. Here's the Twitter module. Here's the Facebook module. Here's whatever. And it lets us construct stories using all of those different forms of media in order to tell a cohesive whole.
Wow. Are you guys going to stick with some of that the big studio work? Are you guys going to develop your own IPs, or what's the plan there?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I will say that we've been running around Hollywood quite a bit. We've sold some scripts to some. Am I allowed to say which studios? Two of the 4 major studios we are now developing original IP with. And what's really exciting about that is they're not typically, an alternate reality game is an afterthought, right? Someone creates a story, and then they hire a studio like ours to say, hey, help us market this, or help us make it transmedia or next generation or whatever. Here, what we're saying is, here's a script that we wrote, and the transmedia pieces are part of it. In fact, one could not exist without the other. We like to say it's sort of baked into the DNA. And we go to them and we say, hey, look, your revenue models are dying. You're in real trouble. Audiences, you're competing with the internet, you're competing with cell phones, and you're competing with all this other form of media. Why not make those all the same thing? Why not deliver a show that actually lives on all of those forms of media, and the hub of that experience is gonna be the TV program, and it's gonna keep pushing people back to that. But you get to own that space, and you get to push people off and then pull them back and do this wonderful dance, this back and forth dance. And the studios are really excited about that because they've never seen anything like it, and they're very anxious to experiment with new opportunities. And we've got an engine that can build it. So it's pretty exciting. You're going to see a lot more, I don't even want to call them experiments because they're actually going to be out there. You're going to see real products that we've been building over the last 2 years, and that are designed specifically so that my mom will call me and say, "Holy crap, I just watched your latest show and it was awesome," and then my phone started ringing.
Right on.
So yeah.
Are both of those IPs TV IPs, or is one a film? Or
both of those are TV IPs. We have a handful of others, 2 film properties that are also in development, and 2 other TV IPs that are in the pitch phase right now.
Right on. Well, if people want to learn more about you and Fourth Wall Studios, where should they go?
Fourthwallstudios.com is our website. The other real simple way is follow me on Twitter. It's just Elan Lee, Elanlee. Anytime anything new or exciting happens, I put a quick little post on there, and we'll direct you where to look for more information.
Right on, my man. Well, thanks again for sitting down. Elan Lee is the chief designer and co-founder of Fourth Wall Studios. Thanks so much for your time today, Elan. We appreciate it.
Really appreciate it, Greg. Thanks so much.
All right, this concludes episode 9 of Adapt Weekly. We'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.